As many of you know, perhaps have even seen the Hunger Games, shifting gears, the Hunger Games just released their second movie of the series. It came out a couple weeks ago. And I cannot tell you how often, when I ask a woman, who do you admire? What are characters in books, or what are the women that just put the fizz in your ginger ale? Who are they? And you know what I hear? I hear Katniss Everdeen. And I say, yes, I know. And when it doesn't take a rocket scientist, if you think about it, because if you know this woman or have read the books or have seen the movies, she is a total badass. She is a reluctant leader of a long overdue revolution. She is incredibly humble. She's fiercely loyal. She's incredibly resourceful. And she's just a badass. She's just amazing. But when I ask my clients to dig a little deeper and say, what specifically do you remember about this character? Give me some more. And they inevitably point to the same scene. They all say, do you know that scene in the beginning of the movie, of the first movie, when she's riding in to the opening ceremonies of the Hunger Games, and she's in that chariot, and she's on fire? That one. And I get goosebumps, because I'm thinking, yes, I know what you're talking about. That's how Katniss Everdeen got her nickname, the Girl on Fire. And in a related note, I also ask my question, so what's the theme song, what's the song that you want to live by? And do you know how often I hear Alicia Keys' song, That Girl is on Fire? And in case you want to know the second runner-up, it's Defying Gravity by Wicked, from Wicked. From where I sit, I don't think that all this imagery is a coincidence, actually. I think it's a big-ass harbinger that is asking us and beckoning to us as women collectively, and it's seducing us out of our comfort zones and into center stage. I think that this resonance with Katniss and fire and chariots is actually very telling of what we are being called to do as women. Now, not later when we're ready and when we're enough, but right now. I was working with a client last week, and she's being called to do something that is way out of her comfort zone. Let's just say it has something to do with revolutionizing religion. And she is experiencing what I lovingly refer to as a vomit moment. Which is one of those moments where you are asked to do something that is so bold and so audacious and yet so compelling that you kind of throw up in your mouth just a little bit. I know it's gross, but it's kind of really, really telling. And like you, this woman is bright, and she is feisty, and she is opinionated, and she is stubborn. And she has lived a lot of her life, so much so that she knows this is not her first rodeo. And she has, in fact, been there, done that, and bought the t-shirt. So you can imagine my chagrin when my client says to me, you know, I'm thinking of entertaining the idea of, and I'm toying with the notion of potentially maybe playing with this idea. But I want to do this from the fringes. I want to do it, from the outside. And I had a really strong reaction. Imagine that. Saying, I think I said, oh, because, and I thought of this article that I remember, and I went back after the call, and I found it, and it was from 2009, in Oprah magazine. She interviewed women about power, and she interviewed this woman, Elizabeth Lesser, who talked about the concept of memisma, which is originally from, Harriet Rubin. Got it. I want to credit her, because it's a good thing. So Elizabeth Lesser was talking about this concept, memisma, which is essentially the force that women use to raise their children. But she was very clear, you don't need to be a mother or even a woman to have access to memisma. You just have to have access to the power value the power of the heart. So mamizna is power that is generated by our hearts. And Lessler asserts that women have this in spades. We get it, we live it, and now we need to lead with it. She said we need to harness our hearts and ride our chariots of love into the center of town. Yeah. We need to harness our hearts and ride our chariots of love into the center of town. Just 2 times, because it's so great. This is what I said, so I finished with my clients and I forwarded her the article. And I called her and I said, no, you can't play at the outskirts of town. We need you in the center of town. And her response, oh, well, shit. Because she knows and I know that Lessler is spot on. We do need to harness our hearts as women, and we have done this in history, but it is time to do it more. More of us need to do it, and we need to do it more frequently and not wait. We need to stop asking so many questions and start making more statements. I saw this amazing woman, Angela Myers, speak recently at the Business Innovation Factory Summit down in Providence. And her belief is that we all have genius inside of us. And as a way to access that genius, she invites us all, you first begin by touching your heartbreak. And when she said this, I'm like, that's such a downer. You're going to have me start by touching my heartbreak? And she said, hang with it. And I sat there in the audience and went, what's my heartbreak? And then, boom, I felt it move in. And it was like this force, this power that I accessed very quickly. And because it was like going to the scene of the crime. So you awaken that sleeping dragon of your heartbreak and you have a kick-ass, on-fire chariot to drive into the frickin' center of town. So I ask you, what is your heartbreak? I came into contact with my heartbreak a couple weeks ago at my 5th grade son's parent-teacher conference. My husband and I go in and we sit in those little itty-bitty chairs. And I look over at the wall and there it was. It's that poster with all the presidents on it. Most of them are white, and there's not one freaking woman on that poster. And I went ballistic. Because I'm embarrassed that now my 5th grader, and I've got another one coming up, but it's a very big poster. My 5th grader is seeing that every day. That is my heartbreak. And Angela Myers says, touch that heartbreak, access it, give it voice, raise your hand, rise up, and say, I'm going to do something about this. And here's the key, but I need your help, because you cannot do it alone. Bummer, right? So, let me ask you that. Will you help me? How often have you heard that question? From where I sit, I don't hear that question very often. Hell, I don't say that question very often. What I hear is, I can do this myself. I can hear, I hear, I've got this. I don't need anybody else's help. Thank you very much. But that's fine if you want to stay on the outliers and the fringes of the town. But if we want to go right into the center, into the heart of town, I'm thinking it's not going to cut it. Will you help me? Yeah. The next speaker, the next speaker has heard that question ad nauseum. And she's generally on the receiving end of it. And she's getting to the point at her age and stage in life where she's starting to realize she wants to ask that question more instead of responding to the call. She wants to do it honestly. Please welcome to the stage to tell her story, the amazing Becky Carpenter.